my amazing viewers. Thank you so much for joining me on my program once again. I appreciate you wherever you are connecting from. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please kindly subscribe to my channel. Click the notification bell so that you'll be notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you so much and remain blessed. Whenever you look my video, whenever you watch my video, share the video to all platforms. Share it to family and friends. Share it in your WhatsApp group so that people can get information on what is happening in the contraption called Nigeria, mainly against the Biafrans, against the Duduas, against the indigenous people in the contraption called Nigeria. I try as much as possible to set the record straight. I don't preach hate speech. I don't speak against people. I set the record straight. The only important thing I do here is to make sure that the plight of the people remains on the front burner and the world will know the true story of what is going on in the contraption called Nigeria.
The train which headed from Kaduna from Abuja has told a bad story of Nigeria's security system. Besides making nonsense of the strength and depth of our intelligence, the attack has demystified the proactive efficiency of the security agencies. The incident happened less than 24 hours after the terrorists laid siege to Kaduna airport. Before now, the terrorists made traveling by road along the same Kaduna route a deadly venture, compelling high-profile travelers to opt for making their trips by rail and by air. The bandits had a foreknowledge of these developments and directed their focal attacks first at flights, which has now forced some airlines to suspend flights to Kaduna, then to rail, which has been typified by the Kaduna train attack. It is a notorious fact that all the security agencies were caught napping, only resorting to follow-up actions. It is an understatement to describe it as a national shame. We cannot fathom the reasons why the security agencies are reluctant to go after the terrorists, who for over 2 years have laid siege to Kaduna, attacking military formations and killing people as they deem necessary. Can we not begin to nurse a fear that these terrorists can bring down a commercial flight with the level of their sophisticated weaponry? We cannot be blamed to hold the opinion that the terrorists had a foreknowledge of the train manifest, which explains why they concentrated the sporadic shooting on the VIP coach. From the accounts of the survivors of the attack, the bandits aged between 18 and 20 spoke the languages which make them easily identifiable. Sadly, some of them are suspected to be Chadians and Nigerians, which tell the sorry story of how porous our borders have become. We do not intend to gloss over the presidential order that the security should go after the terrorists as well as rescue the kidnapped passengers. Belated as it seemed, a recurrence of the attack in whatever scale will be unacceptable. No time is better and timelier than now to sharpen the proactive capacity and jig the intelligence strength of the military. We feel, and strongly so, that the several lamentations should end now and give room for actions to end the agonizing experience.
Well, that commentary leads us to our discourse. It appears that the policy has been to contain the terrorists, push them to certain frontiers away from where the elite operate, and perhaps the nation goes ahead with this life. Should that be the case? Should we not be speaking of getting Nigeria rid of terrorists of all manners in every form? We didn't have terrorists some decades back then, but today it appears it has become part of our national life. For instance, the anti-Boko Haram war has been on for 13 years and counting. Who says it may not be on for another 13 years, and we have other issues in the northwest, southeast, south-south middle belt. My guest to take a look at possible alternatives in dealing with this problem, perhaps uprooting it right from deep down, is Dr. Hussein Abdu. He's a political scientist and country director, Care International Nigeria. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
So, is it a way of life in Nigeria now, managing terrorism?
Yeah, absolutely it is. If you struggle for something for over a decade, and then it becomes a way of life, it's a new normal. The fact that a generation of children have actually been born into this particular state. So if you take people from communities in the northeast of the country, children who have been born or who were very young when it started, below 5. And those children that were below 5 when this whole thing started are over 20. And those that were born in that crisis, in the crisis, are about 12 years old and more. So what you have is a new normal, and there are two things you need to do. One, you will need to continue to manage this situation, ensuring that damages are minimized, where we are also dealing with the underlying causes and ensuring that these ones who have carried on are properly contained and new ones are actually not getting another. It's a two-pronged approach you have to do, ensuring that the ones that have carried on are already fighting and all that are not getting new recruits. So, and then you also make sure that those ones are also the ones that are carrying are also decimated. So it's a two-pronged approach. It is not exactly the same that you hear bandied around about kinetic and non-kinetic and all that kind of analysis. Yes, there are broad spectrums of what we need to do, but there are specificities on how we have to do them. But one thing that sometimes our analysis and including our response is that we assumed that those of us responding are the ones that are dynamic. We don't also put into consideration that there is also science in terror, and that these people are also responding to context. So as situation changes, they are also responding and taking new actions and here and there. So I think that's a dimension that we many times don't take seriously. We think that, okay, when we do this, then we are done. But again, the ones that you are doing, that you are reacting to, are also reacting. And therefore, it's a game that you will need, as terrible as it is that you need to be on top of, you actually need to be on top of it. Not just on top of it, that you will need to predict how they are going to react so that you can preempt. So it's a preemptive kind of system, that the reactive part of it is what we are doing more of, but we are not being preemptive. And being preemptive is different from being proactive. You know, proaction is to some extent an element of reaction, but you should be able to preempt in a long-term manner, that you are able to do your analysis and you are able to see that, look, this is a trend, because this happened this year and that happened the following year and this happened this month, therefore this could happen. There's a science in that process. It's a methodical process of managing your risk analysis, and this is not what is militarily done. I think our challenge over these years is that we have militarized our security. Our whole gamut, our whole conception and reaction is being largely militarist, which is in both thinking and action. So the thinking, the design and everything is about military. The reaction to it is about military. And military here, I'm speaking to it in a very generic sense.
Because what we often hear, if you use the Kaduna train attack as an instance,
yes,
how did the National Assembly react? Yes. Oh, declare state of emergency.
Exactly.
Go into the enclaves and bomb them.
Exactly.
What did El-Rufai say? Establish military bases here,
and
level down everything.
Yes.
Some other groups are saying sack the security heads.
Yes.
It's more of military response that we always see.
So it's a more military response. In fact, even in terms of advisory, look, in this modern time of our society and how the world has grown in terms of technology and understanding of the military, up to today, our military advisory, our security advisory system is the military. So you have a retired general who you have consistently, not just in this government, that you have consistently appointed as national security advisors. But national security...
So is a military hangover?
Yeah, it's a military hangover. And there is a perception that it's only the military that is trained to react to issues of insecurity and
national security,
an issue of national security problem. But that is absolutely not true. That is actually not basically even the training of the military per se. Their training is to defend the territorial integrity of the country, but the perception, the feeling there is either internal insurgency or external aggression. There are clear cases of internal insurgency, like we are seeing in the northwest and northeast, and some of the recent emerging issues in other part of the country. But if you want to have a more nuanced approach to national security, you actually need to look beyond this war approach or militarist approach to this. I for one, this trend, the whole thing that happened in the last 3 days, for me, it's very shocking and very unfortunate, and it shouldn't be accepted in any way, and the national outrage is deeply understandable. But it is something that some of us saw coming.
Okay, now before that, we'll come back to that.
Yes.
You spoke of non-military reactions, preemptive, proactive, and reactionary reaction to it. But you also see the Nigerian security architecture talk extensively on kinetic, you mentioned it, and non-kinetic. They have broken it down. They appear to understand this. There's kinetic and the non-kinetic. The question is whether we are seeing more of the non-kinetic, and whether it's that putting the right things in place, and whether it's yielding the desired fruit.
You know, actually, again, national security, in response to national security issues, sometimes is also shaped by citizens' perception and what citizens want to see. And if you look at, and sometimes this was some of us too, looking at what are Nigerians saying, if you look at the whole gamut of the national conversation, it's more around the kinetic. And so whatever you are actually doing, because the non-kinetic dimensions of it is soft and sometimes not tangible. You don't
not easily perceived.
You're not easily perceived, and the tendency for people to also see it as nothing is being done is very high.
Absolutely.
So sometimes government reacts, which it shouldn't be as a government, because of the kind of information you have, the kinds of the details you have, the resources that you have available to you. You should not be stampeded to do it. But many times, particularly that we are in a political era, and sometimes popular perceptions and views are very important.
Political coloration
in terms of politics. You don't want to lose your constituents, and so you react based on what people actually want to see you doing, and you are reacting also consciously, or being as well being conscious that this thing I'm doing may not even give me the result, but you still go ahead to do it because that is the expectation. So that the challenge there is that the government is not communicating enough. Normally when you are dealing with this kind of major security crisis, you need to communicate more, because you need to build a strong national consensus in terms of understanding of what is going on. This is what we have collectively failed to do over the years, not just in this government. We fail to develop a strong national narrative to say this is the problem, and then galvanize the country to respond
into a common solution.
Into a common solution to it. By now, and I keep saying this consistently when I have opportunities like this, by now I expected that as a country we would have convened, even if it's a monothematic conference of discussing national security, where we'll bring all the major stakeholders in the country, irrespective of political affiliations and all that, to actually have a conversation and say, look, we're dealing with a strong, almost an existential crisis here. And can we have a conversation? Bring everybody, traditional institutions, civil society organizations, opposition political parties, people in the government, even development partners. You sit down and you have a huge national conversations where you are able to create a common understanding of what this problem is and design a common response to that program and distribute them based on the specificity of the individual constituents that participated in that. This is what we expect from you, this is what we expect from you, and then we do that and we have common processes of accountability, of measuring progress and all that. So we haven't done that.
Would it sound more like a national dialogue, national conference?
It may be like a national conference, but it's monothematic. It's only on one theme.
One issue.
One issue, one theme, that this is what you are coming. So it creates a sense of emergency.
That is if the national security issue is a mono-thematic,
yes,
one issue. If there are no other issues apart from that are not related directly or indirectly,
if they are related, yes, if they are not related to this, it's not up for discussion. So you know that where we are going, this is a conference on national security. That's basically what you want to do. Of course, there will be attempt. People will try to say, "Oh, national security is broad. That we need to talk about. Resource control, world food security, unemployment, and yes, there is those dimensions of security, but they are not issues that have to do with the politics of the country. Whether it has to do with the structure, as important as those ones are, it's just that I'm saying that there's an emergency, and therefore we need to have that. It is not this one that an incident occur and then the next moment service chiefs are going to see the president. It's important for them to say, we want to see them seeing the president more regularly, not actually when incidents like this happen. So you convene that. When you do that, you consolidate actions, because everyone, even the opposition parties and others, are seen to be part of the solution, part of the process of seeking solution to this problem. Because one thing that we don't recognize is that it affects all of us.
Absolutely.
Everyone.
I was even at some point expecting, I can't remember the last time the National Council of State met.
Yes.
I was expecting, even if there is possible an emergency session, I think that they should meet within some time in a year.
Yes.
A National Council of State is a semblance of a national spread.
Yes.
Call this meeting and discuss this issue as a first step towards
exactly, as a first step. But that is not a thinking group. With due respect to these people, to their service to the country, the excellent work that every one of them have done, and all.
I want you to respond after this break.
Okay,
stay with us.
Did you know that AIT's social media handles have all changed? If you are one of the millions of our followers on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, this is introducing to you AIT's new official and rebranded social media handles. Like or follow us now on our Facebook page, Official AIT Live. If you're on Twitter, switch to our new handle at Official AIT Live and activate the notification button to get breaking news and updates on the go. For exclusive short videos and photo news, follow our Instagram account at Official AIT Live. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Official AIT Live, and enjoy live streaming of news and your favorite programs, where you can also watch our broadcast materials at your own convenience. Note that Official AIT Live is the only authentic social media profile name with all the handles on our website ait.live, with a notification prompt to accept and receive breaking news and updates on the go. Log on to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube platforms on your smartphone, tablet device, laptop, and desktop to follow us now. AIT.live. On air, online.
Dr. Hussein Abdul, Country Director, Care International Nigeria, has been with me, and we've been taking a look at lasting, perhaps permanent solution to ending in terrorism in Nigeria, looking at different alternatives. Before we went on break, we were doing a comparative comparison of National Council of State sitting over the security position and an enlarged forum.
Yeah, and National Council of State, yes, is a more like a recommendation and approving entity, very important in building national consensus on major issues. But if you want to have a conference on national security, it actually has to be a technical conference where you draw both politicians and other institutions, including the media and experts, who can come and do a proper diagnostics and dissecting, and also helping to build national consensus on terms of defining what we are dealing with. So it is so difficult in this country. Even if you look at the social media handles, you read what people write, including columns and media reportage.
Different perceptions.
There are different perspectives and perceptions and deep emotionalism and others, which is actually not allowing for a proper understanding. And sometimes we underestimate our power as citizens. Many times we shape government's reaction for good or for bad. We do that quite often with the way we react to issues and what we throw out there. But when there is no national consensus on it, and if we check, look, all over the world, particularly in developed democracies, when they are going to be involved in the major actions around this, even when they don't convene a conference, you see them taking action that is meant to mobilize citizens to, project and have a common ground. It doesn't mean that you are going to get a 100% endorsement of what you intend to do. It doesn't mean that. But it actually, what you want to have is that you want to present a narrative that people can actually hold you to account for. That's always very important in dealing with this major crisis, and I knew that consistently this has been my own message all over the last 12 or 13 years that this thing has started, that we need a national consensus of what we're dealing with. Today we hear about bandits, we hear about kidnappers, we hear different kinds of terrorism or whatever. We use different adjectives to describe and which are not necessarily the same. We don't define them, we don't understand them, and order. So today as a country, what we have is what we call like
in the Niger Delta, when before the amnesty,
yes,
so they were insisting they are freedom fighters.
But, yes,
some say they are agitators.
They are agitators.
Some say
they are criminals. They are
so
terrorists.
Different adjectives.
Yes, so you have different adjectives that we actually use to describe them. So basically, what we have as a country today is like we have a crime box, and in that crime box, there are different expressions of criminalities in that crime box. But what we are doing is that what we are seeing is a crime box, and what we are calling for is to smash the crime box. And typically when you smash, because they are potpourri, there are different elements inside of different shapes and size, when you hit it, there are elements of it that will disperse. But because you have not done a proper dissection or disaggregations to understand which is what. So like now, if you take the whole of northern Nigeria or the Kaduna axis that we are talking about, there are elements within that are largely could be associated with the terror, with terrorism, and terrorism here I mean like Islamist insurgency that we're experiencing in the northeast of the country. There are elements that are actually a reincarnation of armed robbery, who now see more this reward in kidnapping. So you use arm, instead of using arm to take things, you take people, and then
in exchange for money.
In exchange for money. And then they are bandaged. The banditry is a sociological concept, and it is very territorial, and also a function of a community. So it operates banditry structurally and historically, if you look at around the world, because this is a phenomenon that has been there, and there are a lot of study, a lot of work that has been done around it, whether you call it Togis in the 18th century India, or you are calling it about the Irish bandit and the Scottish bandit in
the cowboys
in Europe. Or the cowboys in the US, or the typical Robin Hood stories that we also heard about. So that there is a structure. They're part of a community. They exist there. There's an element of territory. They are not as mobile as you could see with kidnappers or armed robbers and as well. So even when they move out, they have a base. They can move out to escape, and then they come back to base and all that. So we are not using that. We are dropping names. We are dropping concept. We're using the same thing. And again, the whole thing around terrorism, whether they are terrorists or not terrorists and all that. Look, terrorism has been clearly defined by different international instruments around what that means and what can be done about them. But it doesn't actually mean that anyone who actually uses arms to carry out certain crimes are easily labeled as terrorists and all that. There are different issues that we need to understand, and it's very important for us to actually respond to that. So disaggregating this different variant of crimes and having better response to them is what we actually need. But we are not discussive. We are not having conversation as a country, and therefore people just see what they like, and the reactions is also based on what people think. In the northwest of the country, that has been largely bothered by banditry. Each state, probably until now, each state is taking a different action. They couldn't even come together.
Until recently.
Until recently. They couldn't even come together to say, this is how we actually want to respond to this. But when you know that these people is the same community, they move around, they're sometimes even not very conscious of
I don't know whether up till today,
states.
whether the states, the governments in the south, northwest have reached a consensus that negotiation with bandits are out of the way, whether it's not an option, because some of them were meeting them and some were clearly against it.
Some were clearly against it. Zamfara and Katsina were clearly states that were into the negotiation initially into the negotiation approach. But of recent, I've had Masari in many conversations saying that he regrets the actions and that they are not going to negotiate. Nasiru has been consistent to say that he's not going to negotiate with them, and that for him the only solution he knew is they have to be wiped out. So
after the initial negotiations he had with them outside the country.
After that's the earlier part of his government in reactions or to probably what happened post 2011 general elections and the violence, and trying to say, okay, probably compensation will solve the problem. And they did, negotiated, compensated, and it never solved the problem, and he's been consistent around that. I also knew that of late also the governor of Zamfara has also been clear to say that they are not going to negotiate. But these are statements that people bandied around. You wouldn't go to any of the states where you find a comprehensive strategy document of the states to say, this is what we are dealing with, and this is how we want to approach. This is how we want to approach it. And it is based on what you have put together, how you want to approach it, that you can be able to galvanize support for the actions that you have put together. We don't have it.
Let's quickly take some tweets. Remember, this program is quite interactive. The Twitter handles are being scrolled on the screen. Quickly sending a message or comment. After that, we come back to you. You say you saw it coming, as it were, the train attack. I want you to elaborate more on it. Mohammed OBS says, our Scottish challenge in Nigeria is imported from the Sahel region. He mentions Mali rebels here. Say Western world involved to make Nigeria poor because no farming activities going on in our villages. Okay, the next one is Labor Amos. He says APC is not interested in finding solutions. He's politicizing it to insecurity in Nigeria, but always glad in providing excuses. He says, did you read between the lines what the federal government and Amechi, Minister of Transportation, how they responded after the train attack? Obi Oduenyi says, the issue of terrorism in Nigeria is sponsored by some cabals in the government. Remember, those fans sponsoring Boko Haram that has done what has government done about them? That the government is a bit hesitant about dealing with those that have been established that were sponsors of Boko Haram. Now, maybe you respond to this, and you also said you saw it coming, that train attack.
Yeah, yes, I saw it coming. But again, one thing before, the politicization of security or insecurity. And for me, to be very honest, security, national security issue is a political issue. It's a political issue. And when people say you don't politicize, it's just like when I hear people say you can't politicize economy, the economy of the country, and I just like, what else can we actually politicize? What defines, the economy defines who you are, rich, poor, inequality and order. These are political issues, of course.
Allocation and distribution of
allocation and distribution of order. So how do you actually say that it's not? So security also is, because it defines our existence as a people, and therefore people are bound to be interested in it. How you manage it, we attract one form of reaction or the other. So it is. And so it's a political question, and people are bound to raise fundamental questions around that. So I think we need to be very clear about it. But what we don't need to do in the kind of playing the politics of it is not to support action because you are bound to gain from it. Because the crisis is that if you don't invest in supporting, in dealing with it, even when you win the elections, you are still compelled to deal with it. So it's just like what happened to us in 2014-15. We had a massive crisis. Yes, there were partisan engagement into this process. It was looking like, okay, if the party in opposition wins the elections, and then probably in 6 months, in 1 year, the problem will be solved. And it is getting to the end of the 8th year of this, and we're still struggling with it. So the same thing will actually happen. I think what politicians need to recognize is that issues like this, it's better you address it sometimes even before you get into power, because when you get into power after it's been addressed, it makes your life a bit much easier in addressing other issues. So for me, it's a political question, and there's no way.
Political solution.
Yeah, there should be a political solution to this, and so people should not say that we cannot, you cannot play politics. I don't come from that school. But again, on the train attack, anyone who is a keen observant of development in the country in the last 12 years or so, you will see the trend. The trend emerged amidst this crisis. And it emerged in a way that it didn't come as complementary to the existing means of transportation.
Which should be the normal.
Which should be the normal. It wasn't complementary. It came as an alternative, a strategic alternative based on security. So, ordinarily,
thank you so much for your patience to watch from the beginning to the end. I hope you have learned something from the video you have just watched. The video you have just watched is to bring information to your doorstep and for educational purpose. It is not to demonize anybody. Let us watch continuously and see who can be able to make a sense out of every nonsense we are seeing. We must continue. We move. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter what they say. They will kill us. We will kill them. At the end of the day, Biafra is here. Thank you for watching. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please kindly subscribe to the channel. Click the notification bell so that you're notified each time I upload a video. You will be among the first to receive it. Thank you, and remember this. Bye-bye. See you again.